The prairie night was cold enough to make a grown man tremble. Rancher Caleb Morrow rode swiftly through the starlit gorge of Redstone Canyon. One arm cradled a small, whimpering bundle pressed against his chest, a baby girl, his sister's child, burning with fever. The only kin he had left after outlaws ambushed their wagon train. Caleb murmured, voice quaking, "Hang on, little one, just a bit longer." But the girl's cries grew fainter. She needed nourishment, and she hadn't eaten in nearly a full day. The nearest settlement, Willow Creek, was still hours away. Caleb slowed his mare at the edge of a Comanche village, nestled in the shadow of the canyon. He knew stepping onto their land could mean his death, especially under the cover of darkness, but the child's shallow breaths urged him forward. He raised both hands high and called into the shadows, I come in peace. Please, someone help my niece." Lanterns flickered to life. Warriors emerged silently from the darkness, arrows notched. Caleb didn't reach for his revolver. Instead, he tightened his hold on the baby. A tall warrior approached, eyes sharp as flint. "What do you seek here, rancher?" "My niece. She's starving. I've got nowhere else to turn." Before the warrior could respond, a gentle voice spoke from behind. "Let me see the child." A woman stepped into the lantern glow, young, composed, with braids trailing down her back and eyes full of quiet resolve. Her name was Liana. She carefully took the baby from Caleb's arms. The girl whimpered, faintly, searching desperately. Liana's face softened with compassion. "She needs milk," she said. The warriors muttered among themselves. Caleb swallowed hard. "I know, I don't have any. Please, she's all I've got left." Liana didn't waver. She settled on a woven mat by the fire, drew the baby to her chest and let her nurse, soothing her with soft humming, steady hands, and a mother's instinct. The crying stopped at once. Caleb felt his knees buckle with relief. He whispered, voice cracking, "Thank you. You saved her." Liana looked up at him, calm but resolute. "This child needs more than milk," she said. "She needs someone to guard her, someone who'll stay." Caleb bowed his head. "I'll do anything. Just don't let her die." The Comanche leader stepped forward, studying the rancher and the woman cradling the infant. "Liana has lost her own child," he said softly. "Perhaps the spirits guided you here for a purpose." Liana gazed down at the baby, now sleeping peacefully against her. Something shifted in her expression, a glimmer of hope. A gust of night air swept through the Comanche village, carrying the scent of burning sage and distant rain. Liana sat near the fire, holding the baby as if she'd always been hers. Caleb stood a few paces away, uncertain if he belonged, uncertain what lay ahead. The Comanche leader watched him closely. "You entered our land seeking aid. Few ranchers would dare that. Fewer still would come unarmed." Caleb nodded slowly. "I didn't come to fight. I came because I had no other choice." The leader's face softened, just a touch. "And now you face another choice." Caleb felt his chest tighten. "What choice?" The leader pointed to Liana. "She has lost much. The spirits took her child and her husband in the same season. Yet tonight she held your niece as if she were born from her own heart." Caleb looked at Liana. She rocked the baby gently, murmuring something soft in her native tongue. Every word felt like solace, like healing. The leader continued, "The child must stay with her for a time. She can feed her, she can comfort her, she can keep her alive." Caleb swallowed hard. "But I can't leave her here alone." "You wouldn't be leaving her, you'd be staying." Caleb blinked at Server. "Staying in this village?" Liana looked up at last, meeting his gaze. "If the baby is taken to Willow Creek in this state, she may not survive the trip. Here she has warmth, she has milk, she has me." And then she added softly, "And she needs you too." Caleb stared at her, this woman who had lost so much yet held the child with such fierce devotion. "But your people?" He glanced at the armed warriors. Would they accept a rancher among them? The leader nodded once. "If you come with respect and if you protect the child, you will not be harmed." Caleb stepped closer, unsure if it was permitted. The warrior stiffened, but Liana raised her hand, calming them. She gestured to him. "Come, sit beside us." Caleb lowered himself onto the mat. Liana shifted the sleeping baby into his arms. The tiny fingers curled around his shirt, peaceful for the first time in days. Something inside Caleb broke open. Relief, gratitude, and something deeper he couldn't name. Liana watched him quietly. "She will need both of us," she said softly. Caleb looked into her eyes, warm, weary, strong. A bond formed between them, unexpected and profound. The leader stepped back into the lantern light. "Then it is decided," he said. Caleb looked up sharply. "What's decided?" The leader smiled, a rare, wise, knowing smile. "You stay in our village, the woman feeds the child. Together, you raise her until she is strong." Caleb opened his mouth to speak, but Liana rested a gentle hand on his arm. "You came here asking for help," she whispered. "Now do spirits ask something of you in return?" Caleb felt the baby breathing softly against his chest. He nodded. "All right, I'll stay." Liana's eyes softened, a spark of warmth flickering in her gaze. The fire crackled, the baby slept, and for the first time since tragedy struck, Caleb felt a strange sense of hope. The next evening, the prairie dusk was cool, kicking dust against the fading sun. The sky blazed in streaks of crimson and amber, the kind of light that stretched every shadow across the land like a phantom of something long lost. Caleb, now bound to the village but still tending to his nearby homestead, was riding home through the tall grass when he spotted horses circling something in the distance. He slowed his gelding, squinting. Amid the golden stalks lay a figure, a woman, her shawl torn, one shoe gone. The hem of her skirt snagged on a thorn. At first he thought she might be gone. The prairie had a way of claiming wanderers whole. Then she stirred, barely, but enough for him to see her hand clutching her ankle. "Ma'am," he called, leaping from his saddle. Her eyes fluttered open, blue and frantic. "Rattler! It bit me! It's swelling fast!" Caleb knelt beside her. The skin above her ankle was already red and puffing, the fang marks dark as coal. The swelling was creeping toward her calf. She was breathing too fast, fear gripping her tight. "Easy now," he said, untying his bandana. "Don't move more than you must. Name's Caleb Morrow. You're safe." Her voice shook. "I was heading to Willow Creek. My horse bolted. I fell." She tried to sit up but gasped in pain. He pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Stay still. You keep moving, that venom spreads quicker than a grass fire." The sun beat down. Caleb knew time was short. The nearest doctor in Willow Creek was a half-day's ride. He studied the wound, then her pale face. There was one thing he could do, one trick he'd learned when the frontier offered no mercy. He took a deep breath. "Ma'am," he said softly, "what I'm about to do ain't proper, but it might save your life." She nodded, tears glistening. "Please, do what you need to." He drew his knife, cut the fabric around the bite to see it clearly, and tied the bandana above her knee as a tourniquet. Then, with the grit of the plains in his bones, he did what every trail hand knew. He drew out what venom he could and spat it into the dust. He worked until the swelling slowed, until the red stopped climbing. When it was done, he sat back, breathing hard. She lay still, her eyes glassy with shock and fatigue. "Reckon you'll pull through," he said, his voice low. "Need to get you out of this sun." He lifted her carefully, feeling how frail she was. Her head rested against his shoulder. Even through the sweat and dirt, he caught a faint whiff of lilac. He settled her on his horse and climbed up behind. keeping one arm around her to steady her. They rode toward the Comanche village where he knew Liana could help, the sound of hooves steady as a pulse. The sky deepened to indigo. By the time they reached the village, stars were pricking the twilight. Inside a small lodge, he laid her on a pallet by the hearth, near where Liana was tending to the baby. He fetched water, clean rags, and a flask of whiskey. The woman was half conscious now, murmuring something he couldn't make out. "Drink this," he said, holding the cup to her lips. She sipped weakly, then met his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Morrow." He gave a small nod. "Just Caleb." For a long while they said nothing. The fire popped, casting golden light over the woven walls. She glanced at the bandage on her leg, then back at him again. "I thought no one would find me. Most folks don't come this way." "Lucky for you, my gelding don't care for the main trail." She smiled faintly, then drifted into sleep. Liana, still cradling the sleeping baby, looked over at Caleb, her eyes warm with understanding. She moved quietly to the woman's side, checking the bandage with gentle hands. Caleb sat nearby, staring at the flames. He told himself he'd done only what was right, what any man would. But something in his chest felt different. Maybe it was the quiet gratitude in the woman's eyes, or the way Liana's presence seemed to steady the air itself. Out here, people were easy to lose and harder to forget. The wind swept across the plains, softer now, carrying the scent of sage and lilac. As Caleb watched the firelight dance over the sleeping woman and the child in Liana's arms, he knew the prairie and the village had just given him a reason to stay awake till dawn.